Hi, I'm Ann Katz. Welcome to the Made in MV podcast, where we invite you in to learn how we do what we do at the Mount Vernon School and why. In this episode, we meet with Mount Vernon's upper campus leaders, Christy Lindstrom, Trish Bogdanchik, and Leah Nestor at the midpoint of our school year to recap our last half while exploring our next half and beyond. Let's hear more about these leaders and how they empower Mount Vernon students every day. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Made in MV podcast. We are so excited to have three amazing leading ladies here with us today. We have Christy, Trish, and Leah. Will you please, each of you, introduce yourselves, tell us about you and your current role here at Mount Vernon? Christy, let's start with you.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Christy Lindstrom, and I currently have the role of head of upper school, which means I have the privilege of working with all of the students and all of the teachers and families of students in grades 9 through 12. I came to Mount Vernon in August, but I have been a long time admirer of Mount Vernon from afar. So I'm really excited that I've now got a semester under my belt, and I'm looking forward to starting Mod 3 and engaging with these guys as we move forward.
Thank you, Christy. Now, it didn't go unnoticed that you said my current role is the head of upper school. So can you explain that a little bit?
I am equally excited that in July of 2022, so already at the end of this school year, I will be transitioning into the head of school role, which means I'll get to work with all of the children and all of the families from our preschool all the way up to grade 12 and really see and admire and champion the work that's done at every level.
Well, we are very excited for you to take on that role and see what unfolds next year. Lots of great things will happen, I know. Thank you, Christy. Leah, please introduce yourself.
Yes, so Leah Nestor, I'm the head of middle school, and kind of like Christy, I'm so excited that I get to champion the middle school, the students, the faculty, the families. It's been a great experience since I've been here. I actually got to teach a class today. So I started a class and just being in the classroom with like 20 students has just been amazing. So loving my time here and loving my time here with Christy and Trish.
Leah, what class are you teaching?
So Matt Nealon and I are actually teaching a class called Design Your Life Blueprints for Success. Really stoked about this class and talking to students really about designing their life and what does that mean? What's their brand? What do they want people to know about them? It's a life class, and we're excited to teach it, and we'll have some design challenges in there. We'll bring in some MV experts, so really excited.
I love that you guys are team teaching it, Leah.
That's team teaching, yes.
And way to bring the real world in. That's exactly what we love to do here. Thank you. And Trish, welcome. Please introduce yourselves and tell everybody who you are and what you do.
All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Trish Bogdanchik. I'm currently the associate head of upper school. Next year, I'll be transitioning into the head of upper school, and I'm really excited because there's quite possibly no other way I want to spend my day than with 450 of my closest teenage friends who I adore. I've got a couple of kids here too, and I'm also a parent. I champion Mount Vernon in that way as well. Been here for about 3 years, and I've seen, the school as the dean of students, where I was always hanging out with the kids. And as I transitioned into associate head, I couldn't not hang out with them. So I spend a lot of time with kids.
Fantastic. Well, I can't imagine anybody who could influence these kids at this stage of life more than the three of you. So thank you for that. And thank you for being here. And I'm excited to talk about now that we're starting the second half of the year. I would love to kind of recap last half in the middle and upper school, and then talk about what's going to happen in the next half of the year. And then we'll have an opportunity to talk about what's beyond, now that we know that everybody's kind of transitioning. And Christy and Leah, you will have a year under your belt. And we always say, until you've had the first of everything throughout the 365 years, 365 days, it's still your first. So today is your first, January 4th. So we'll get to the beyond in a minute. Christy, from your perspective, it'd be so interesting to hear when you first came on board in August. Can you describe kind of what you saw at that time, what you're seeing now, and then what you foresee in the future?
Sure, those are big questions.
I
and
know.
Like Trish, I have the privilege to work and watch every single day what the kids are doing and what the teachers are doing. I think when I first arrived, I was so very curious about, was everything the way I thought it would be? Because I had been watching Mount Vernon and binge learning from Mount Vernon for several years. And I think my first impressions were very positive in response to everyone really cared. Everyone was trying, everyone leaned in, and we had COVID protocols. We were returning from sort of a crazy modular kind of bubbles, not bubbles, face masks, not face masks. But then what happens now? Where are we? And the kids were so excited to be back in school. So I think I was really hit in the face by a lot of people trying and putting their heart into their work, and that the kids were so grateful and joyful here. It was a very genuine feeling. I was also inspired by the kids who brought it every day. Like, they would challenge our teachers to learn more, and they're excited about something, so they would ask more questions. And this idea of our norm being start with questions, it like literally was on the table. So I would go to a class and I would hear teachers intentionally starting with questions, really from a place of passion and interest to spark motivation. And I believe that that is key for learning. And so I was very eager to see if it was in place, and it was. And that enthusiasm really held up and was sustained throughout the term. We have 2 mods in the fall, and throughout the first mod, then at the end of the first mod, even though I saw that sustained enthusiasm, what I was most impressed with was the learning exhibitions at the end of the mod, where kids demonstrate their learning, they put it into action. And that's sort of something we believe in here, that it's not enough to have knowledge, tacit knowledge, but what do you do with it? Like, how active can you put it into play? And I saw examples of that, and the kids were so proud of their work. Like, yes, the process had fallen into place, but for them to stand up and proudly present their product and their understanding was really exciting. And we were able to connect parents to that somewhat in mod 1, but at the end of mod 2, I just am recalling this arts evening we had with an exhibition of student learning. There were like 700 people here flowing through our buildings, and kids just exuberating huge pride and knowledge. And I guess when you see all of the efforts of these people coming together, it's exciting to be a part of. So I would say, if I look back, those are the things that really jumped out at me.
That, not only was that a big question, that was a big answer, Christy. Thank you for sharing that. Not only were you curious and you saw the enthusiasm in the kids, but you actually saw them live it out. And I think that is one of the strongest characteristics of a Mount Vernon student, is that they're allowed to do things, and then we celebrate them when they demonstrate it. And it just couldn't be more exciting to be in an environment like that. And of course, as students are accomplishing things, we know that there are these strong faculty supporting them throughout. And that leads me to my next question for you, Leah. You and Christy came in at the same time at a very, very challenging moment on the heels of the pandemic, not unusual to Mount Vernon, very common across our entire country and world. But tell us a little bit about, as feeding off of what Christy said, what you saw first coming in, and how was doing that with a buddy? Doing that with a buddy who is experiencing the same challenges as presented to you.
Well, and I can tell you from the beginning, I can give you a visual of what that looks like, to walk in the building and be like, "Oh, Christy, what are you doing right now? I really need you." Right. That's the visual of how Christy and I worked together. But no, it's been great coming in with Christy, and I have to agree with everything she said. I'll say one of the things when I first walked in the building and what I was drawn to Mount Vernon was this idea of not just living in a world, but actually designing a world, right? Giving students the skills and to just make a difference and be the change. And when I came in, I heard this phrase, relationships are foundational for learning. And I heard it over and over. And We spent the first few days and weeks really digging into relationships. And I did an interview with one of our junior prefects. It's a new 8th grade student. And in that interview, you know, I asked, I said, you know, why do you want to be a junior prefect? You're new here, you just got here. 8th grade can sometimes be a really challenging year to move into a new school. And she stopped and she said, well, I've never been at a school where every single adult that I encounter really cares. And that right there was the ultimate example of relationships are foundational for learning. She was ready to learn. And she said, and I want to make sure that everyone in my community feels that way. And so to me, that embodied, I know, I just heart melted. It really embodies this idea of community and relationships. And, you know, it just really speaks to what Christy was talking about, that everyone was in, we were all in the community and the care and the relationships that have always been here. They just look a little different now in this time, in this pandemic, right? We are still here for each other. So that really, to me, and I share that story because that always helps to explain what relationships are foundational, what that really means, right? It's something that we say, but this is what it really means for our students. So Christy has been a great, and Trish as well. They've both been a great resource. And coming in new as someone, you really have that new feeling together, right? You're like, did you miss that? I did too. Did you miss that? Did you know about that? Right. So it's really been a really great experience for me here.
I love that. And Trish, did you hear that? That is a leader. That that Miss 8th grader or Mr. 8th grader is coming towards you next year. So what a born leader. That's just exemplary. Thank you for sharing that, Leah. And then we have Trish. Trish has been here. She's a veteran, considered a veteran, being here for 3 years. And what an amazing 3 years to have been here, Trish. Have we had one normal year since you started?
Let's be honest. Normal is the
the new normal.
Yeah. We've been extraordinary every year.
Yes,
so
of course.
I think my first year opening the new building, the new upper school building, and letting the kids see what a flexible learning space looked like and watching them use it in a way that sometimes were in ways that we didn't even think of. They thought of ways to use things, but seeing them use the building and seeing them be so excited about it, that was really exciting. And then the next year when COVID creeped in, it changed a little bit, but the kids put their mask on and they showed up and they were here and they did what they needed to do. And now we're in this year where I think the year after, it's been a year where kids are really grateful when we have a dance and they really understand. We had a homecoming dance, our first one since COVID happened, and we did it outside. We had a dance floor, a DJ, and we were hoping kids would come, and we ended up with more kids at a dance than we've ever had. I think we had almost the entire school at the dance. And we call it a dance, but really they just jump up and down together and eat and drink. But the kids had a great time, and just seeing them be so grateful, and they come and say thank you a lot more than in the past when it was just things that, we just had dances, whereas now they're so grateful. But it's been great.
So it sounds like our students, especially in upper school, have been extremely resilient, and through every grade level, our kids are learning along with us because we've never experienced this before either. And the more resilient we are, of course, and our ability to pivot, which we've been able to do a lot. Our faculty, especially on the front lines with our students, pivoting between virtual and in person and doing the same thing at the same time. It's really a testament to our faculty when we see our students so happy and resilient and excited and grateful, and they want to show up. And so tell us a little bit more about that, Trish. Even, the things that students are doing, obviously, if they're not comfortable or feel well adjusted, then they don't perform as well. But I hear all the time some of the stories that these kids, these accomplishments, anybody can jump in, Christy, Leah, the accomplishments these kids are able to show us. It's incredible. Do you have any stories from this past semester or past half of the year that you could share with us from standout students or standout stories?
I have a ton. I'm sure.
Yeah, there's so many.
So many.
Go, Christy.
Like we see excellence and we see progress and we see product. And I want you to know there are also bumps, right? Like
Mhm.
that Leah was saying, you've got all these relationships in place. That's the jumping off point. And then kids fail up and they fall down and they get picked up by their caring teachers. But it's exciting to watch different students progressing at different paces and supporting each other along the way. I'll share two. One, I was in a classroom and the kids were doing oral presentations about a chemical they had learned. And the student who was going to present had not been in-person education for 2 years. So they'd been out of the classroom and literally just returned to this, quite intense social activity with so many friends all the time. And we changed classes every period. So at our school, you have the opportunity to be with and meet many students during the day, which we think is exciting because we're a small community. And so this kid was super nervous. And everyone in this presentation who was watching and listening had the role of peer review. So they were going to give feedback because feedback is something we focus on here. We believe it's formative. Feedback is a gift. And that's the process to get better. So everyone's trained in how to give feedback and the kids were ready to do that. But they realized this kid was so nervous, this friend, he could hardly get started. And so before they even got to the feedback part, they just spontaneously and without direct intervention of the teacher began to cheer on this kid. Come on, you can do it. Just take one step at a time. Say a couple of sentences and then we'll give you the thumbs up and then you can say the next ones. And you've prepared. We know you prepared. And just to see that spontaneous level of peer support. And, once he got the ball rolling, and they did kind of give him little emoji signs like this. And a lot of times they'll do like this, me too, which is a sign from the lower campus. And they'll do like this, which means I'm with you, you're doing a great job. And just almost these body language signals that you got this. And that level of support was so inspiring to see. And the teacher and I were nearly moved. We never spoke. So clearly this classroom was run by the young adults, which was exciting to see. That was, just a moment that passed in the classroom, but I was so proud. We've also experienced really exciting extracurricular activities. We had the dance where the whole school came, but we also had girls softball who's gone to the Elite 8 competition and they had the playoffs here and our whole school wanted to go and cheer the girls on. It was just a moment when the community comes together and says, hey, that team has done a great job. We're behind you. Our theater group has just, gotten the opportunity based on past excellence to go to Scotland at the end of this summer to compete in an international festival. So yes, there are these huge moments where the kids come together and as a team are able to achieve beyond expectation. But there are also these little moments where you're like, wow, that's really what it's all about. And it's when character shows up. It's when those values show up in support of one another. So I would just share both. I think they're equally as inspiring.
Christy, do you remember the improv day where we went and watched the kids do improv? That was one of my favorites. I just knew that was going to be one of your moments, but we watched the kids who were taking improv in theater. They did it was kind of like their final and they performed and they invited us to come watch. And it was the best part of my day, probably the best part of the month. Because at the end, the kids, they did a great job, by the way, they were amazing. But at the end, part of their reflection was to explain, like, why did you take this class and what did you get from it and what have you gained? And one of the students, several of them had mentioned how they didn't initially want necessarily to take improv, but when they shared what they gained from it, do you remember that?
Yeah, the transferable skills. They were like,
Yes.
I can think on my feet now. I'm ready to speak about something I was not prepared from the beginning. And they had even recognized that. One girl said, I didn't want to take this class. It was funny, but she was so appreciative. She said this was the best.
We see these surprises all the time when students just, they go in with open eyes and open minds and they come out and it far surpasses their expectation. And, you were talking about relationships, Leah. Well, talk about the relationships between the students that you described, Christy, and then the relationship between a coach and the athletes on the team, and then the relationship of the support of the entire school. I know that we were trying to charter a bus to go to the Elite Eight and drive, I don't know, 2 hours. I don't even remember. It was so far to go watch these girls. And Trish, wait, someone went. Christy, did you go?
went.
You went. You
We
were there.
both
Oh, you
went,
both
yeah.
did. Of course you
Yeah.
did. Of course you did. So talk about the support and the effort, and I will say that it doesn't go unnoticed. Those kids saw you in the stands and they know you were there, and they know the effort it took for you to get there. And I think that's what it's all about. And that's pretty much what you were talking about too, Leah. And I know that there are some amazing middle school stories. Some of these kids, we think middle school, and first of all, I never want to relive middle school ever. Ever. I don't even want to relive it. I've got girls who are in middle school, and I don't want to, it's hard enough. So, but tell us, some of these kids are just so wise beyond their years, Leah. And can you share a few examples of some demonstrations of learning and just growth?
Yeah, of course. And like Christy, I'm sitting here going, I have so many stories, and when we're talking, I'm like, oh, I really want to do that one. I should do that one. So the one that comes to mind, this was recent. This was in preparation for the art showcase. We had our humanities students, so they're allowed to do learning expeditions or exhibits, excuse me. And so we had this one little sixth grader, and I have to tell you, we were all over the building. Has anyone seen this student? And no one had seen this student. And we were sitting there going, okay, let's go look in the hive, because that's typically where a student is. Because back to those relationships, they love when they're in there with Mr. Andres, and they know they can go in anytime and work on whatever they are trying to complete or finish. And he was really adamant, the student was really adamant about creating a project that was authentic. So he only wanted to use the materials that they used back in ancient times. And I asked him, I said, well, what are you working on? He said, I'm really just trying to find how I can create tools that are not tools that we have now today that they didn't use during that time. And so he had spent his time. I mean, it was his time. It was his GTD time. He got to choose how he wanted to use it. And he wanted to spend it solution seeking. And that to me, that was a sixth grader. That to me is maturity, right? That to me is this idea of taking his time, using the resources that he had, using that relationship that he had with his MDE teacher, and really trying to figure out, how can I make this project as authentic as I could be? He could have gone and said, you know what, I'll just do my research, do my paper and be done. But no, he really wanted this truly authentic experience. And that to me was a great example of what it is that our students are doing here. I like Christy, have this story of camaraderie and community. And it was this student that we were at a basketball game, and it's a student who, you could even tell by his demeanor, he's like, I'm not going to do anything while I'm here. I'm not going to do anything on the floor. I might not even get any playing time. Well, it was right near the end, and he did get some playing time, and he made a shot that was, I think the timer was like going right down to 0, and it went in, and the entire gym went wild. Students, they rushed him. We had to go sit back down, and you can't rush the student while they're playing. I mean, it was so amazing, because in that moment, they knew that was a special moment for that student, right? That was a moment he made that bucket. And that to me, again, it just speaks to the camaraderie in the community. The students know when it is time to rally around another student. And that was amazing. So those are the two stories that come to mind.
Such amazing stories on, the common thread is just, it's community. It's people supporting other people, whether it's a teacher to a student to a teacher, peer student. There's a lot of that. And that's one of the things that I love about Mount Vernon, is that people are aware. People are aware, people are looking, people are watching, and they know when it's time. Just like you said, Leah, they knew that this was an important moment for that student. And they just erupted. And I think that's such a great description of who we are. So you guys have told us a little bit about what happened in the last half. Give us something to look forward to. What are we looking at in the next half of this year, of the school year? Trish, what do you think is happening? What are we looking forward to? Even from a spirited community event base.
Right. So I know we're looking forward in the upper school to our February dance is coming up. We are super excited to host some 8th graders. We want the 8th graders to come over in a few weeks, and we want some of our sophomores and juniors are going to give them tours that are completely student led and student generated. So we're excited to get some 8th graders over here so they can see what this is all about. I'm really excited about interim. I'm excited about Mustang Rally. The sports, I love going to the events. I know frequently Christy and I would be there at the same time, and we don't need to be there, but we want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited about prefect interviews. Those always happen in the spring, and that's just a great time to see how amazing, like to watch our students go through the prefect interviews and go through the process where they apply and where they come dressed in their finest, and they interview, and you're just so proud of them, and it's an amazing thing to see, just the transformation. Like specifically, one of our prefects from the past came and interviewed as a junior and was really nervous and didn't get it, but got some feedback about here's what you could do, here are some ideas, and went through all of that feedback and came back the next year and was the most well-prepared person I've ever seen and just rocked it. So just to see the kids go through their journey, and I know that's coming up. So those are the ones I'm really excited about.
I love that. And feedback is a gift, right, Christy?
That's
Feedback
right.
is definitely a gift. And then what about in the classrooms, inside and outside of the classrooms, Christy? What do we have to look forward to next year? What are we expecting from our students?
Well, this is the first day of Mod 3. So in the upper school, we switch classes. Kids study fewer classes, but for a period of time, and then they switch. It offers more choice to our students. So today we're starting Mod 3, which is our 3rd quarter of study. So lots of exciting courses, chemistry from the kitchen perspective with a focus on nutrition, chemistry from a medical perspective, looking at how medicines are inspired. We also have design briefs in the upper school, where in our innovation diploma program, kids actually go into workplaces. I know we're looking at Coca-Cola and Mercedes, and they actually take a problem facing those corporations and generate through design thinking possible solutions. Like Leah's talking about, our middle schools practice being solution seekers, and then they're asked to do that here in the upper school, like go work for Coca-Cola and come back and tell us what that experience was like. I also am interested in interim. I've never done that before. I'm new, but as Trish said, we're going to be traveling to like 13 different countries, investigating essential questions about culture and communication and opportunities we can't provide in the classroom. So it's such an extension of what learning can look like. So that's going to happen in February. And then I think also watching the seniors, these are their last 2 mods, their last semester, they're through the college application processes, the acceptances are coming in. But listening to their ideas, not about what they want to do or be, but what questions they want to answer and what do they want to accomplish. And I love listening to their ideas. Some are lofty dreams, which I can empower and cheer on. And some are quite practical. They think the whole world is planned out. They've got every single step, and it'll probably change tomorrow. That's the great thing about teenagers. So I think I'm excited to follow those seniors. They're the group I met my very first moment with students at the senior retreat, and I'm going to watch them through graduation. So those are kind of the things I'm looking forward to in the spring.
Such an exciting time for everybody. And what about middle school, Leah? What are we looking forward to?
Well, I think a little bit like Christy, everything is new for me. So I'm looking forward to it all. But in the classroom, I have to say, we are going to really amp up our problem-based and project-based learning. I think this idea of impact is really gonna show in the middle school this year. And watching our students just really get in there and use the solution seeking skills that they've really been honing over the past few months. That I'm really looking forward to in the classroom. And I think scaling impact in this idea of impact here in our community, in our classrooms, but also locally. We had some students who just did they completed, and we have a volunteer club, and they did Project Linus, where they were creating and making blankets for students and children in the burn unit. And so I'm excited to see them do more things like that, really just impacting those in our community. I'd have to say, outside of the classroom, again, I'm really excited about everything, especially the trips, our class trips, so our students are going to take, and really getting to experience. I think our 8th graders have a dance at the end of the year. And then, kind of like Trish said, watching them move on to the upper school, watching them really get to, I feel, and today I was telling my class that I love middle school because this is where you begin to think about, who do I want to be? Like, what do I want to be? Who do I want to be? That happens in middle school. And then they get to do that and be that when they get to the upper school. So watching our 8th graders kind of move on and go and do that is going to be really exciting for me. So lots to be excited about, even just because I haven't experienced it yet.
Well, we have covered a lot of ground in the last half, and then for seeing what's going to happen in the next half. And, we had planned to talk about what is beyond, but I think we are living so much in the moment right now that we have so much to look forward to through the end of this school year. And there'll be so many more opportunities for us to share what we envision for the future. But again, I cannot think of 3 leading ladies who are in a better position to help influence this generation of students as they design a better world, and working alongside and guiding our faculty and staff to do the best that they can do as they give their hearts and souls every day, every moment, building these foundational relationships with these students. Our students are really lucky, very lucky to be here, and it's going to be exciting to see everything else that they accomplish throughout the rest of the year. Christy, Leah, and Trish, thank you so much for joining us today. And we are so excited to see what unfolds in the next several months. And I know that everybody who's listening will be anxious to hear and see what the demonstrations are that these students can accomplish. So thank you all very, very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for listening. Subscribe to Made in MV to learn how we do what we do at the Mount Vernon School and why. Join me next time on Made in MV.